Hello, good morning, and welcome to Stories of Resilience. This is a beautiful morning where I am, but my guest today it's his evening. Hi, Scott. Scott Donnelly. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Great, Karen. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
It's lovely to see you. To meet at last. We've spoke a lot behind the
Yes,
scenes and on LinkedIn, and
we have.
it's kind of it feels very different when you meet someone in person. You can have that personable conversation. And that's what's great
Yes.
about these lives. It allows you to do that in to tell people where you are, Scott.
So I am in Minneapolis, Minnesota, in the United States.
So you're not far from the Canadian border, right? You're north in America, is
No,
that
and
correct?
yes, my family has a cabin, and it's about 10 miles from the Canadian border. So I live in
Oh,
South Minnesota, but we have a cabin very, very far up north.
beautiful. And all the Great Lakes around where you are, right?
Yes, Minnesota is the land of 10,000 lakes. So we,
I've
we
never
have a
seen it.
couple.
Yeah, I've never seen it from the American side, but I did a big travel stint in the Canadian side a few years ago while I was at university, and that Lake Superior seemed to take a day and a half to pass. It was seriously
Yes.
seriously big.
They call it superior for a reason. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's more like a sea, right?
Yes.
But a beautiful part of the world, I'm sure.
Yes, it's stunning. It's gorgeous.
So we're here to talk about stories of resilience, and when we first met and I first heard your story, it was incredibly compelling to want to know more because you've just endured so much in a short life. You're still very young,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and born with something like me. So born with something
Yes.
which you've had to deal with from birth. And I want to know, if, just kind of get your feel of what that was like being born with. If you want to just tell people that don't
Sure.
know too much about you, just a little about what you were born with. What did happen?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was born with two main things. One is cleft lip and palate. And all that really is, when I was born, I had an opening on the side of my face. Normally, when you're developing, your face kind of closes in utero, and my face hadn't fully closed. So I had a big opening up the right side of my face. My right cheek was exposed to the bone. There was tissue there. It hadn't closed. That's a really good way to understand it. The other thing I was born with was called amniotic adhesion syndrome, and that mainly affected my hands and feet. So you can see with my right hand, I have a few smaller fingers. Um,
Yeah.
when I was developing not the umbilical cord, the amniotic strands wrapped around my fingers, causing them not to grow. So I was born with webbed hands. One of my surgeries, they divided these two fingers. Um, but when I was born in New Jersey, which is in the east, on the eastern coast of the U.S., one of the doctors who was a veteran said it was the most severe cleft lip and palate he had seen in 28 years of practice. Um, initially, when I was born, the story goes, and I was too young to verify, but um,
Yeah.
14 doctors and nurses told my dad that I wasn't going to live past 24 hours. Um,
Wow.
it, the face was just too open. The room for infection was too great. And at that time, reconstructive surgery was in its primal days. So they didn't know
Yeah.
what was possible. Um, so that was
Wow. So
my
quite a
first
shock.
day. Yeah, it was.
Quite a shock there for your folks
It
at
was.
that point in time, right?
It was. Um, and it was a surprise as well because they didn't have the imaging back then. I was born in
Yeah.
1978, so it was a shock to everybody. And I ended up obviously living past that first day, and a couple days after, And then they began to make predictions that while I might live, I would, and I hate this term, but it's what they used, I would amount to and become nothing more than a human vegetable.
Wow.
No intellect, no brain functioning beyond what a monitor could stimulate. And so we've been fighting some battles for a very long time.
Absolutely, for sure. There's so many things to have to deal with so young. So, at what point did you find, did you gain an understanding of what was going on for you? Because we're not aware for quite a long time about things that other people obviously are very concerned and worried about, right? When did you figure out that something was not quite right?
Well, it was interesting because I was born an only child. And because of my medical circumstances, when a lot of other kids went to preschool and started forming those very, very young relationships, a lot of times I had to be in the hospital. So I missed out on some of those immediate young social interactions. But my mom tells this story of when I was still very young. I was holding a crayon and I made an image of my face, but I only used one eye. So I must have been very, 4 years old around that time. I think it probably came in stages. Obviously, I knew I was having a lot of surgery, and that's not a normal experience. And so my mother was a nurse for many years. She was trained as a nurse before I was born. So she was brilliant with the medical knowledge. And my father has this deep baritone voice. So between the two of them, he was the logical one. She was the emotional one. I picked up a lot of the best of both of them as we were going along. When it was time to go into kindergarten, the school district I was born into told my parents I'd have to be institutionalized, literally just based off of my appearance. And my parents, God bless them, said, we're going to look elsewhere. And we moved to a town probably about half an hour from that first home. And I met a brilliant kindergarten teacher who basically told my parents to go away. She's got Scotty. We got it. Don't worry about a thing. And we learned to compensate for those skills that maybe I didn't have as an early child. But there are ways of compensating and being creative and being resilient. And she was Mrs. Daly, my kindergarten teacher. I love her to pieces. She took me under her wings. And she began the process of normalizing me in the classroom. And yes, Scott has some differences, but let's make sure we're sending them as we get well cards instead of
awesome. That's awesome. Having those early foundations, I think that's pretty important. That sense of acceptance amongst your community, your family, and people who are there to have your back and cheer you on and support you. I think that is such an important thing for people to grow up, to be able to normalize it and to not be so held back by things.
Right. There were circumstances I was given with this face, and the scarring is still there. I can take off my glasses because I see the reflection.
Yeah.
That's what I have after 40 surgeries. So you can imagine it was a stark appearance. But there are also circumstances that we get to define ourselves. And my family and loved ones always kind of made a distinction between who I was and what I was. Who I was always the fun-loving boy. What I was at times had to be a boy undergoing surgery. But there is a distinction there.
Yeah, and certainly from speaking with you, you don't sense this on text, but your personality, your sense of humor really shines, and I think that's perhaps potentially to kind of disarm maybe a sense of coping with people's
Sure.
reactions towards you, and kind of helping them to be okay with looking somewhere and something which is a
Yeah.
little bit different to the norm, right?
Well, it's, when I really see this is when I'm on the playground with my kids, and another kid walks up to me their age, and at first they're, you know, what's going on
Yeah.
there? And then they ask me, what happened to your face? And the answer I've learned to give is, I was born that way. And kids, oh, okay, cool. Want to go play on the slide?
Yes.
They had a question, they had a curiosity. I answered it in a way they could understand, and we are
Yeah.
moving on.
That's right. That's right.
So,
The moment's passed. Let's move on.
right.
So
And
as adults, we kind of get a little bit hung up on these things, don't we?
well, I think people sometimes feel a responsibility to feel a certain way towards me, and I don't always feel a responsibility to help them with their responsibility,
Right.
if that
Sure.
makes sense.
Sure. Yeah.
Just like everybody else, I want to have my day. Sometimes I really love these conversations and really can take the time to educate people. Other times I'm human and I don't always do that. So, but kids,
I think that's right. Yeah. I
kids,
think
when you
the
say,
thing is when you've got a very obvious visible difference where in every interaction you get the same kind of questions, people don't reckon, for them it's the first time they've asked you that question.
sure,
But for you,
sure.
for us with visible differences, it's the 100 millionth time we've been asked that question. And it does
Yeah,
get a bit wearing, it gets a bit tiring. So we may not always be able to accommodate
right,
everyone's, needs because, we do have off days. We don't necessarily want to talk about things that we've talked about endlessly before, right? But like you say, sometimes you just have to kind of grin and bear it
well,
because
and
that
I
just is
think
what it is.
for me, it's even in tone. There's a difference
Yeah,
between what happened to your eye versus what happened to
yeah,
your eye. And
yes, yes,
for
yes,
the gentle, curious ones, I'm much more likely to answer. If somebody says, "What happened to your face?" I don't know why. Do I have mayonnaise somewhere? Oh God, I know what they're saying, but
spilled my breakfast on it this morning
right,
or
right,
something.
spinach in my teeth. Um, so I think from an early age,
Yeah,
I got to be empowered with how I answer that question, and
yeah. No, that's absolutely brilliant, and that's like any
yeah,
kind of education, isn't it?
yes,
That you grow up with needing to know answers to, and I think for people who get those answers, those ready-made, pre-planned ability to respond, it kind of helps, I think, to have those kind of repertoires of,
absolutely.
yeah.
As
But
a
yeah, go on.
well, I was
Go
going to
ahead.
say, as a parent, sometimes my kids will fall down and they'll hurt themselves a little bit, but they'll look to me to see whether they really need to cry or, oh, just dust off
Yeah.
and you're fine. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. If I
Yes.
have
Yes.
confidence in the
Absolutely.
interaction, they have confidence in the interaction too. So,
Yes, that's right. They're looking for you for reassurance. Should I cry?
same thing.
Shouldn't I cry? Is it painful?
Same
Is it
thing.
not painful?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. You see that. You do see that. That's a good observation. Really good observation. So yes, you have children of your own, and have they kind of accepted? Obviously, they were born into a world of seeing you the way you are, anyways.
Yes.
And how do they cope or react or whatever to other people's reactions to you?
I they've known me forever. Um, I'm dad. Both my children actually adopted internationally. Um, and,
Oh, okay.
their story is beautiful and intimate to them. And
Yeah,
it's great. So I think, again, if I'm confident answering somebody, they see that and what happened to your dad's face? Oh, he was born that way,
yeah,
versus what happened to your dad's face? Maybe my child decides they don't want to be friends with the person who's rude in
yeah,
that interaction.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So, but they're fearless. Both of my kids. Oh my lord. Um, I'm
They've
not
got
dad
a
with
good
a
role model.
yeah. I'm
They've
just
got
dad.
a good. Yeah, absolutely. And I think often the way that we look makes people think that we are somehow unintelligent or,
Sure, sure.
inside there's not a lot going on. And that's, I don't know, it's a strange phenomenon, isn't it? That the way you look is somehow,
It is.
a sense of who you are beneath that skin. And it's, people get a little bit confused about that.
It's been very interesting to me. Um, some of my greatest friends in life, and it just because they're my greatest friends, happen to be the kinds of people that turn heads in a stunningly beautiful way, model like beauty, and I think I connect with those people, just like they connect with me, being judged on your appearance, whether you're stunningly beautiful or you fall below the average, classically beauty line. It feels the same in the end. Do I have friends because I'm stunningly beautiful or because I'm a good person? Um, do I have, are people being shy around me because I have this face or because I'm being shy around them? Um, so
Yeah.
there's a lot of power in it too.
There
I'll
is,
acknowledge that
yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah. Good. In terms of operations, you've done. You've had what you need to do. You kind of feel
I
comfortable
do.
where you are.
Um, if anyone was ever born at the right time in history, it was me. The first 7 surgeries they did on me, I'm the longest living person to have survived them. And at a certain point, I was 22 years old and I had a surgery and it didn't go as well as it should. And it impacted my college life. And when I was 22, we were talking earlier, I realized I was pretty much as close to George Clooney or Matthew McConaughey as I was going to be. Um, so I put the surgeries on hold for a while and I
Yeah.
finished out my college. I finished out my grad school experience. And while I was in grad school, I met my wife. So I think attraction, to use this word, being sexy, part of it is physical appearance, but part of it's
Yeah.
confidence too.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and I've lived enough life to know that this doesn't define me. I define me. I have a wife that I love and who loves me. I feel confident in most situations. So I've
Good.
paused for about 21 years now on further surgeries.
So never say never, but at the minute there is no need.
Well,
You are where
you know,
you are, and
it
you feel comfortable with it.
it's fascinating. The technology has advanced so much that what
Yeah.
used to and what took 13 surgeries for me to repair my cleft, now they do in 2. Um,
Yeah.
and for me, I'm done. I don't need it. But I really do support those who are still undergoing their process, their craniofacial
Yeah.
process.
I totally get that because for a lot of years I was taken to various eye surgeons and specialists to rectify something which couldn't really be rectified by anyone. And every one of them said, "Technology's not there, Karen. We can't do
Yeah,
anything." I said,
yeah,
"That's fair." As me, I didn't care. I wasn't the one going to these surgeons to have something done. It was people taking me there, right?
right,
Because they felt that I would benefit from having not having a scarred eye.
right, right.
And it didn't bother me. I couldn't use it anyway, so why would it bother me? The only bother was that people would ask me endlessly about it.
Yeah,
And then when I moved to Australia and I went to see a new doctor, he said, "So your eye, then what's the problem?" So I told him. He said, "So are we going to go and get that sorted then?" And I said, "No, we're not." I said, well,
very well. Good.
I've been there. I've done that. Well, if there's no need, there's no need, unless it's going to
Right,
pop out anytime soon and cause me a big deal. I'm not going to do anything about it because I don't need to. It's other
right.
people's need for me to do something about that eye, not mine.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the sense, that is a sense of confidence. It's a sense of, I am who I am and I know who I am and I don't need to, it's part of who we are, isn't it?
It is. It is.
So
And everybody, I was going to say everybody has a bad hair day. Everybody feels unattractive. But
sure.
not, so I identify with that too.
Absolutely. So you now so comfortable and confident where you are, well, not just now, have been helping other people to help
Most
people
days.
become who they want to be. So tell us about the new business, an exciting new business, which you are getting involved in, which is helping other people.
Well, when I was in high school, I was part of a National Forensics League. It's a speech and debate tournament that many world famous politicians and speakers, Oprah Winfrey was in it, Josh Gad, who was the voice of Olaf in the Frozen movies. I actually competed against him and he whooped me. But he's a Hollywood star now, so that's okay. But I wrote my own speech on actually having a facial difference. And in that process, I learned to find my voice, not just a public speaking voice, but the voice of my soul, right? When I was born with my greatest strength, my inner voice, and I learned to tailor that. And public speaking across the years has opened a number of doors for me. And it's done me well. I've learned how to do that. So when in this, for 7 years, the previous 7 years from now, I've served as a pastor at a church. And as a pastor, I got up every week and I gave sermons and spoke to public things and did all of that. As a result of COVID and a couple of other things, I decided to end my pastoral career. And I really had this desire in my heart to start my own business. And I have since February. And it's called Poised to Speak, POISED, to speak. And what it does is now I help people unmute their own natural voice. And it's not just the technical larynx voice, but all of us, I think, have that voice within us that we hide because the world might shame us for it, or it's tender and we're not ready to bring it out. And that's where I work with people to bring out that voice and make their realities come true.
Stunning. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I've spent a couple of months now. I have a website up and running. That's poisedtospeak.com, and just really doing some good things around it. But when I had to unlock my own voice beyond my face and those trials, there's a lot of power there. And I love watching other people open up to their own power. It's a humbling experience.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is. I get that. Well, that is awesome. Poised to speak, unmute your voice. Get rid of that, shake it off, that inner sense of not believing.
And everyone has a little fear, but everyone also has the power. So we get beyond the fear
power within, isn't it?
We tap into it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Scott, meeting you today and sharing your story.
Karen,
and I'm
thank
going to be
you so much.
Sharing out amongst my network a little bit more as time goes by, because I think it's a show that people can learn a lot from, be inspired by.
Right.
Like, if you think your day is a bad day, if you're having a bad hair day, think beyond yourself is what I would say. Think about having 40 surgeries in your life and see then how things could be.
Absolutely. And we laugh, and we laugh, we smile, we figure it out. We figure it out.
I think that's what we do. We find our power. We find our inner power that suits ourselves and enables us to be very empowered. So I'm going to bid you farewell, Scott. Have an awesome day, awesome evening, where you are. What is it, about 6:30 or something where you are right now?
It is. It's 6:30 Thursday night. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And no doubt we will catch up again very soon.
I look forward to the conversation.
All right. See you then. Bye for now.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye, everyone.